Hey everyone, what's up Nintendo fans? It's your pal, Avery. Today, I've got a juicy topic for you. My top 8 wish list for Nintendo Switch remake games. As a lifelong gamer, there are some classics I'm dying to see on the Switch. At number 8, I broke down the Sly Cooper series. If you missed that video, you can find the link for it in the description for this video. Without further ado, let's continue our countdown by discussing game number 7 on my remake wish list, Star Fox. Star Fox is an arcade-style rail shooter and third-person action-adventure video game series created by Shigeru Miyamoto, produced and published by Nintendo. The games follow the Star Fox combat team of anthropomorphic animals, led by chief protagonist Fox McCloud. Gameplay involves many adventures around the Lilat planetary system, in the futuristic R-Wing fighter aircraft, in other vehicles, and on foot. The original Star Fox, 1993, is a forward-scrolling 3D rail shooter, but later games add more directional freedom. The first game in the series, developed by Nintendo EAD and programmed by Argonaut Software, uses the Super FX chip to create the first hardware-accelerated 3D gaming experience on a home console. The Super FX chip is a math coprocessor built into the cartridge to help the Super NES render graphics. Super FX has been used in other Super NES games, some with increased processing speed. Its reboot, Star Fox 64, is the first Nintendo 64 game with Rumble Pack support. Due to perceived issues with the German company Starvox, Star Fox and Star Fox 64 were released in PAL region territories as Starwing and Lilat Wars respectively. However, as of Star Fox Adventures, Nintendo uses the same name globally. Main series. The first game, Star Fox or Starwing in Europe and Australia, was released for the Super Nintendo Entertainment System in 1993. Developed by Nintendo EAD and programmed by Argonaut Software, it uses the Super FX chip to provide 3D graphics during a period of predominantly 2D games. Fox McCloud and his team, Slippy Toad, Peppy Hare, and Falco Lombardi, take on Andros, who threatens to overthrow the Lilat system. The concept was inspired by a shrine to the Japanese fox deity Inari Okami, which Shigeru Miyamoto visited regularly. The shrine's accessibility through a series of arches influenced the gameplay. Several boss battles from the game are included as mini-games in the Wii game WarioWare Smooth Moves, using the Wii remote to fly the ship. Star Fox 2 was originally cancelled, even though it was completely finished in 1996. Many of its new ideas were implemented for the then forthcoming Star Fox 64, such as the rival team Star Wolf, all-range mode, charge shot, and a multiplayer mode, though Star Fox 2's multiplayer mode was no longer featured in the final beta. Other elements such as choosing characters, map pointing, and multiple ship variations were later implemented in Star Fox Command. A beta version of the Landmaster tank, the Walker, also makes an appearance as an R-Wing with leg-like attachments. A patch for the final beta was released by a third-party team of hackers to make the game complete, removing the debug mode menus, making an English translation, and removing subroutines for a buggy third vehicle not used in the game. The game was officially released as part of the Super NES Classic Edition. Star Fox 64, or Lilat Wars in Europe and Australia, introduced fully spoken dialogue, off-the-rails movement, new vehicles and characters, multiplayer and rudimentary on-foot gameplay through an unlockable multiplayer mode. It was released in 1997 for the Nintendo 64 and came bundled with the Rumble Pack, a force feedback controller attachment. Star Fox 64 retells the main story of the original Star Fox canon, with new characters and gameplay elements. New multiplayer modes include Free-for-All, Battle Royale, and a time trial. The overall plot is expanded with relatively small core changes. This game is famous for quotes that have become internet memes: "Do a barrel roll," and "Use bombs wisely" by Peppy Hare, and "Can't let you do that, Star Fox" by Wolf O'Donnell. Star Fox Adventures was released in 2002 for the GameCube. Developed by Rare, it is predominantly an action-adventure game in which Fox is armed with a mystical staff. Traditional space shooting is limited to small segments between chapters. Its roots can be traced to Dinosaur Planet, a game Rare was developing late in the life cycle of the Nintendo 64, but cancelled by Nintendo and converted into a Star Fox game. It introduced new characters, including Prince Tricky and Crystal. Taking place 8 years after the events of Star Fox 64, the main antagonist is an army of dinosaurs called the Sharp Claws, led by General Scales. Fox and Crystal fall in love soon before the final boss fight, when Fox saves her life. Crystal then becomes the Star Fox team's newest member. The gameplay of Adventures resembles that seen in most 3D The Legend of Zelda games. Star Fox Assault. Assault was released in 2005 for the GameCube. The emphasis returned to R-Wing-based gameplay, but also had portions of on-foot missions. Assault takes place 1 year after Adventures, with the Aperoids becoming a new threat to the Lilat system. The Star Fox team is tasked with stopping them. Along with Rob, Peppy now pilots the Great Fox, while Crystal replaces Peppy's role as one of the team's pilots. Star Fox Command was developed by Q Games for the Nintendo DS and was released in 2006. It is the first Star Fox game for a handheld console and the first to offer online multiplayer. Like the original Star Fox, gameplay is completely aircraft-based and uses chatter much like the SNES game instead of the voice acting of later installments. Command utilizes a new system of gameplay, incorporating strategy and abandoning its fly-by-rail routes. Players plot flight paths and engage enemies in an open arena-style flying mode using the Nintendo DS's touchscreen. Each character has a unique ship with different abilities. For example, Slippy's ship has no lock-on feature and shorter boosts, but has stronger lasers and shielding. Fox McCloud pilots the redesigned R-Wing 2. Command takes place 2 to 3 years after the events of Star Fox Assault and features possible 9 endings, determined by the player's story progression choices. Star Fox Zero was developed by Nintendo and Platinum Games for the Wii U and released in April 2016. The first Star Fox game on a home game console in over 10 years, the game is controlled using the Wii U gamepad's gyroscope feature. Star Fox Zero also came packaged with a retail version of Star Fox Guard, a tower defense spin-off game. I first learned about the character Fox McCloud in the Nintendo 64 version of Super Smash Bros. When I started playing it on the computer at the age of 8. I didn't know much about Star Fox back then, but when my dad bought me the SNES system in September 2019, I started playing a little bit of Star Fox, and it looked really fun. It reminds me of Star Wars. I really liked the characters in the game, especially the way they talked in their gibberish-like voices in both the first and second games, which also reminded me of how characters talk in Star Wars. I learned that the controls in Star Fox were different from what we're usually used to. For instance, when you push the left arrow button, it makes the main character, Fox, go to the right, and vice versa, which makes it a bit tricky to handle. The same applies to the up and down arrow buttons. And I, for one, was not really that good at that game at all. I learned that when I beat the first boss in Star Fox, the sequel, Star Fox 2, becomes available in the main menu section of the SNES game selection. One day, I started playing Star Fox 2 on the SNES console and liked it as much as the first game. I love that you can play as a 2-player game and choose your character as well as the computer's character from Fox, Slippy, Falco, Peppy, Miyu, and Faye. For example, I first played as Fox and chose Peppy as my computer partner. Unfortunately, I had a hard time figuring out how to beat the very first level of the game every time. The game controls were similar to the first one. After I died, I played as Fox again and chose Miyu as my partner, but it was still harder for me to beat certain levels than in the first game. I guess practice makes perfect. On the other hand, I watched an hour and 59-minute gameplay of Star Fox on YouTube. Then, I watched a 57-minute and 30-second gameplay of Star Fox 2, where someone played as Fox and chose Miyu as their computer partner. From these videos, I learned a bit about how to beat all the levels in both games. I think you need to use the booster shot button on the game controller to defeat enemies and bosses faster and easier. Now, for the remake of the game on Switch, I would like to see some returning characters from past games. Of course, we already know that the main characters, Fox McCloud, Slippy Toad, Falco Lombardi, and Peppy Hare, along with General Pepper, would definitely be returning for the future game. But what about the other characters? For example, I would really like to see Miyu Lynx and Faye Spaniel from Star Fox 2 return on Switch, since we don't get to see them in the other Star Fox game series. In fact, I really like Faye and her bow on her head. I think she looks cute. Besides, I've always wondered what both of their normal voices would sound like compared to the SNES version of the game. Recently, I did a Google search, what happened to Faye and Miyu? Here's what I found from some of the quotes. This is what Dinoman96YO stated. Faye transitioned into a man named Bill, and Miyu dyed her fur pink and renamed herself Cat. Financial Trade 6505 says, now that you mentioned it, I've been curious about that as well. You think Nintendo would have used those characters throughout Star Fox, but refused to. Faye and Miyu could have been put into Assault as multiplayer characters, and could have been a good addition to the story mode. Dinoman96YO quoted in response, I think they didn't come back simply because they weren't really created by the series' then main character designer, Takaya Imamura. They were created by another Nintendo employee named Masanao Arimoto, who took over Imamura's role as character sprite artist for Star Fox 2. There were so many opportunities for Nintendo to revisit them as playable characters in Assault, or even Command, but they just didn't, despite Grave robbing practically everything else from SF2, which gives me the impression that Imamura never had much attachment or interest in revisiting them. He did make his own flirty feline character in the form of Cat Monroe. Cat even has the same golden earring Miyu wears in Zero. After reading the first rumor from Dinoman96YO, I disagree with his opinion about Miyu and Faye. Though, it's true that Cat Monroe and Miyu Lynx both may have a golden earring in their left ear. However, Miyu's ears are shaped a little differently and much taller compared to Cat. The comment about Faye transitioning into Bill and Miyu, changing her appearance to Cat's, was just an attempt at humor, because Faye and Miyu were sort of replaced by Bill and Cat in Star Fox Zero. In my opinion, Miyu and Faye are just somewhere enjoying their own adventures and doing other stuff. If a new or remastered version of Star Fox is ever released on the Nintendo Switch, I'd love for them, Crystal, and the rest of the Star Fox crew from the past game series to return. If I remade Star Fox for the Nintendo Switch, it would be awesome to include a two-player mode like in Star Fox 2. You could pick your character, then choose a partner for the computer to control. This feature would also be available in multiplayer mode. The controls would be much simpler than in the first two original games. Press the right arrow or control stick to turn right, the left arrow or control stick to turn left, the up arrow or control stick to move up, and the down arrow or control stick to move down. For actions, press the A button to shoot enemies, the R button to dash, and the X button to use the boost shot for faster enemy takedowns. The graphics and animation for the remake would be outstanding, offering much more clarity than the original versions of the game from the 90s and 2000s. I think it would be cool that during the final battle with the villain, Andros, there would be a guitar riff with dramatic suspense music. What I really enjoy about this game is that, like Carmelita Fox from Sly Cooper, foxes are among my favorite animals, especially since the main character is one. I also found out that Fox McCloud happens to be one of my cousin Gavin's favorite characters from Super Smash Bros. Rabbits are another one of my all-time favorite animals, and I've always liked Peppy Hare as well. It would be awesome if Nintendo World added a Star Fox-themed park someday. Imagine attractions inspired by the games, a mascot meet and greet, and a simulation ride where you wear 3D goggles, sit in space jets, and press buttons to blast enemies, all with special effects that make you feel like you're really flying through space. Fun fact, I learned that Slippy is kinda like Michelangelo from TMNT, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, and Falco is kinda like Raphael, also from TMNT. Thank you for watching the breakdown of game number 7 on my top 8 remake games for the Nintendo Switch wishlist. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like and subscribe to my channel so that you will be notified when the next video is uploaded. The next game on my list is The Pink Panther, Pinkadelic Pursuit. See you in the next video.